Welcome back. There is renewed hope among Democrats heading into the 2026 midterms after this week's primaries. MS Now sat down with Kentucky's Democratic Governor Andy Beshear, who won twice in a red state. He's also the head of the Democratic Governors Association, and he's charting a course to victory for his party this year and hoping it sets Democrats up for the 2028 presidential election. Here's some of what he told my colleague Ali Vitale in a new exclusive interview.
The governors that we elect will create the map for 2028. Now, if we flip Ohio, Amy Acton, next governor of Ohio, Ohio's in play in 2028. If Rob Sand is the next governor of Iowa, and I believe he will be, then Iowa is in play. If we want to compete in more than 7 states or 5 states with zero margin of error in the future in what will be a critical election, it's not just flipping the House seat in Des Moines, it's flipping the governor's mansion in Iowa.
Ali Vitale joins us now, along with Democratic strategist and author of the Salty Politics newsletter on Substack, Julie Roginski, and Republican strategist and MS Now political analyst Matthew Bartlett. Ali, what else stood out to you from your interview with Governor Beshear, which people can watch right now or read about on ms.now?
Thank you for the tease. The full is also on YouTube, because as much as we can show here, there is so much more that doesn't get to make air. And I think the fascinating thing for me, Anna, is that Beshear is clearly playing a near-term game and a longer-term game. In the near term, we're talking the next 6 to 8 months. He is all about the November elections. There's 36 governor's races on the line. His job is to make as many state houses blue as possible. And so his charge, when you hear him talking about places like Ohio and Iowa, to our audience, those are red states. But those are the places that the Democratic Governors Association, under Beshear's charge, are hoping to expand into with a direct message on common sense issues largely centered on affordability. Think a lot about the playbook that we saw in New Jersey and Virginia with Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger, respectively. It also makes sense, though, that Beshear himself would be the one who's pushing that kind of an argument, given the way that you teed him up as a person who has won repeatedly statewide in a red state. Kentucky was a Trump plus 30 the last time that Beshear was on the ballot. And certainly that's not lost when you look at Beshear in a more long-term perspective as well, because when you see someone who's able to sort of pack a secret political punch like that, the bigger question is, OK, how do you do that nationally? And that breeds questions from me, like the one that I asked him about. I'm seeing you go to a lot of places that might tell the tale of a presidential bid. What's that about? Watch.
You're going to New Hampshire, you're going to South Carolina. What should I make of those trips?
That I'm getting out there and I'm helping Democrats in those areas.
Are you comfortable with being factored in as someone who might enter that field?
I'm comfortable in that. Again, I haven't made any final decision, and I won't until I'm done being DGA chair. But I certainly at least want that conversation that's out there to be one that's focused, to where whoever is the nominee can win. This next election for Democrats isn't a need to win. It's an absolute have to win.
And so what I listened to there, Anna, is the fact that he is still mulling this decision, but it's likely to come after the midterms when his time as DGA chair is done, and he'll have something to show for it based on how these races shake out.
And Julie, as we heard, Beshear believes Ohio and Iowa could be in play for Democratic governors. Is that wishful thinking?
Could be. I mean, this is a crazy year in the sense that we might have a tsunami, the likes of which we haven't seen in 20 years on the Democratic side. And it's very possible that Donald Trump is in a second term. It's a midterm election. His numbers are absolutely catastrophic for Republicans. They are too afraid to cross him, as you saw what happened in Indiana when they did cross him. He vowed revenge and he got it. So this makes Republicans wedded to him even more for their own self-preservation in primaries. And what that means is that regular voters are looking at them and saying, there's no daylight between you and Donald Trump. At the moment, we can't stand Donald Trump. That's the kind of environment where you have an ecosystem that allows places like Iowa and Ohio to be competitive. It's tough, but it's possible.
And Matthew, following up on Ali's questions around potential presidential ambitions, Governor Beshear is unique in that he is a 2-term Democratic governor in a red state that went for Trump. Is he the type of candidate that could play well for the presidential race in 2028?
Yeah, Anna, I mean, again, just an extraordinary interview Ali scored yet again with Governor Beshear, coming off her interview last week with Vice President Mike Pence. Bipartisan as we look at the horizon. But what Beshear said, how Democrats, including his own performance in these upcoming midterm elections, are not just critical, they set the stage for 2028. There's a lot of debate about how Democrats, if this is a blue wave, if this is like 2018 or 2006. But I think you should also remember that in 2006, it set up another massive year for Democrats, 2008. Right. So again, the presidential starts now. We the People, MS Now's coverage in 2026 is going to lead up right to that horizon line.
Ali, we just saw this round of primaries this week. What are your conversations like with members of both parties following kind of these latest breadcrumbs of the direction of the country right now and how voters are feeling? How are Republicans and Democrats feeling about the outlook of the midterms?
Congresswoman Debbie Dingell often says to me, nothing is done until the votes are counted. And that's definitely true. There is so much time between now and November. So much can happen. For Republicans, they're hoping that one of the things that happens is that the Iran war draws to a close and we see oil prices coming down at a consistent enough clip that by the time that voters are getting their ballots in September, October, and then going to the polls in November, that it will be a bit of a different economic picture. At the same time, Republicans are a bit nervous because the thing that they want to campaign on right now, Anna, are the tax cuts that they made permanent in that so-called big, beautiful bill last summer. This should be the season of tax refunds and Americans really feeling that. And instead, what they're feeling is pain at the pump. That brings you to Democrats who definitely have an opportunity, but I would say are cautiously optimistic in large part because there's still big questions about what is that cohesive message and what does it look like to message effectively around affordability right now.
The Washington Post reports that Democrats are starting to believe that taking back the Senate could be a real possibility because of the president's dismal approval ratings and the impact of the Iran war on the economy. But it does point out Democrats would need to win races in at least 5 states that Trump carried in 2024. Julie, how realistic is that? And, are those factors going to be enough?
It's possible. Look, you have very strong candidates. So, for instance, the president carried Georgia. Jon Ossoff is just an incredibly strong candidate. He carried North Carolina. Roy Cooper is an incredibly strong candidate. Both of them statewide people, both of them well known. Sherrod Brown in Ohio. I would normally say Ohio would be very, very tough for Democrats. But Sherrod Brown is a known quantity. He served for decades, both in the House and the Senate. People know him. People like him. He is a populist. He's somebody who's leaning into affordability and has well before it was a trendy word. And so even Ohio is in play right now. Again, it depends on the ecosystem. It depends a lot on what the president's numbers are going to be leading into the fall. It's very hard as somebody who does campaigns to recover from something like this. It's very hard all of a sudden, even if this war draws to a close, for people to say, okay, never mind. Now I feel better about my personal situation. Now I feel better about the president. It's kind of baked in already for Republicans. It's just a question of how big the tsunami is going to be.
And sometimes history can be our guide. Sure. Matthew, Time Magazine reports there is a chance for 2026 to be as much of a blue wave as the 2006 midterms. The parallels are apparent. Time writes, 20 years earlier, George W. Bush was in his second term of a presidency mired in a Middle East war and struggling to combat soaring energy costs. Similarly, Donald Trump is posting some of his worst poll numbers yet, with his foreign policy efforts putting him in Richard Nixon territory, all while the price of gas stands at $4.45. That was written a couple of days ago. Gas prices have only gone up, jumping another 10 cents to $4.55 a gallon today. Matthew, do you see parallels to 2006?
Yeah, I mean, again, you look at history. 2006, I believe Democrats won something like 31 House seats. But 2018, they won 41, yet they lost 2 Senate seats. But I still think it's the 1-2 punch of the 06 combined with the 08. This could be... 2026 could be something like we've never seen before. These races across the nation tend to break late. they also tend to break in one direction with independents, moderates, as well as enthusiasm. So it is very possible, maybe even likely, that the Senate goes towards the Democrats. Tell me what the price of gasoline is in November, and I'll tell you who wins. Republicans like to say there's a lot of time. Things could improve. That is possible. But there's also a lot of time, and candidly, things could get worse for the Republican Party.